it's Haitiana, and welcome to another edition of Morning Coffee with Big Al
and Special T.
We're happy to be coming to you from Cypress Street Radio, AOC Community Media streaming broadcast.
Look for us every day of the week. Our 8 a.m. show will start your morning off right. That's right in a good way.
Not right as in radical right. We bring you good ideas, good pastimes, and who knows what else.
With a progressive flair.
Yeah.
Our 8 a.m. our show will start your morning off right, but our 7 p.m. stream is a good backdrop for some decaf and peace of mind. So either way, get yourself something you enjoy chilling with, sit back, relax, and enjoy our show.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's a big day.
Yeah.
It's the primary day. The primary day for elections. And I hope that everybody wears their masks and stays distanced.
Yeah, and votes.
And
haven't already.
If you haven't voted by absentee ballot or early voting or COVID concern, mail-in ballot, then do whatever it takes to get out there and vote, especially if you're going to vote right. I mean, correct.
Yeah.
I mean, with the best interest of all your friends and neighbors and the world and America. I mean, we need to do what's right, what's best.
Like we say in our intro, not how is it right in a good way?
Yeah, not right as in radical right.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm hearing a lot. I heard this really interesting interview with this book out that's the title is Unholy. And it talks about how the conservative Christians are worshiping at the altar of Donald Trump.
Well,
and how they can do that, how they're doing that. I mean, that's kind of weird. What it is, it's a case of putting blinders on and not paying attention to any of the realities of what's happened and what it is, and just saying, somebody else is going to take care of all this, as opposed to us making good decisions. Like the guys in the boat or the guy that's like drowning in the boat, and a ship comes by and they offer him a way out, and they say, oh no, God's gonna take care of me, and all these opportunities to save himself, and then he ends up dying, and he supposedly gets up there and he says, well, you were supposed to take care of me. He says, well, I sent 4 or 5 people out there to help you, and what do? Nothing. So hello.
Yeah, I guess the variation I heard on that was the guy that this was in, locally here, and they was in a hurricane and it was flooding and all that, and he ended up on top of his roof, and first somebody in a hero came by and said, well, let me give you a ride, man, it's flooding, and then that wasn't good enough, and then next it was the helicopter that came by, and finally the guy ended up drowning, and of course, same scenario. Why didn't you save me? He said, well, I sent you a kind of Piro, a helicopter, and
yeah, and you turned them all down. So anyway, but yeah, that's got a little bit of a regional flair to it. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. I hadn't heard the one about the boat, I don't think, but
I came from another place,
Oh, it illustrates the same idea.
I wasn't born in around the swamp. I was born around the swamp, but we didn't have Piros where I was.
Not this swamp.
Not this swamp, the Everglades swamp.
Yeah.
We got plenty of gators, but no Piros.
Yeah.
We got a lot of Corona too out there.
Oh yeah.
Oh my Lord. Yes. What a mess. Yeah, I've had people who are actually friends of mine who were in my elementary school and Brownie troop calling me So I want to say hello to you if you're listening. I did try to call you back. I'm going to try again after the show. But anyway, people who I'm sure are having a real issue with this this kind of a mandate, but it's like trying to take control over something that you have no authority by the Constitution to do this because it's not your area. You don't, the feds don't tell people when to go to school, but they can pull funding, I think.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some talk about that. I mean, if people didn't open the schools,
That they're going to pull the funding.
Right. Which, but then there's also, I mean, there's still, and I think this is locally and probably nationally too. I don't know for sure though, but there's a question about liability if you send somebody or, compel somebody to go to a particular location, in other words, schools, and they're not safe, then are you liable for compelling someone to do that? Which I would say, yes, you are, because I wouldn't have gone except you said you'd throw me in jail or whatever if I didn't.
Yeah, that's duress.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I don't know what the latest is around here, but I'm not hearing a lot of,
Protest.
hard to say. They don't seem to have much of a plan.
Well, believe me, the teachers do have an argument against going into a school without any type of protections. I mean, I'm sorry, a mask with kids. I don't know. The thing is that the schools have not been sanitized, and you can't keep them sanitized enough. I mean, we're talking if you look, you know how long the school system and the community, certain people have tried to make upgrades of our schools.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking, like the 50s when they were built. And you can imagine, that's build up, and it's just a risk factor. Not all schools are created equally and different. Throughout the nation, you're going to find some schools that are pristine and new and shiny and everything, you just wipe it off and it'll be clean. But there's a bunch of places here in Louisiana that need some deep cleaning, on top of the fact that they're not set up for what's needed to keep our teachers, our staff safe from the risks that are involved with this pandemic.
Well, I don't know how safe you can be with, I have a little table that shows the relative risk of different activities. And basically what it boils down to is when the more people you have in a confined space, the higher the risk is going to be. And, if nobody's shedding the virus or nobody, in other words, nobody's contagious, then there's no risk, but you don't know that. And the more people and the more person per square, or
for the space that's available.
Right, exactly. Then the higher the risk is going to be. And,
right, and then the added problem with the fact that the contagion can so easily be asymptomatic, where there's no indication that they're actually contagious.
Well, I read that recently about the. I've read it before, but I read it again recently about the. They were saying that the first few days after somebody's become infected, and they may be asymptomatic, like you're saying.
Right.
They're highly contagious. That's the same one. Looks like we have some help here. as far as that's the exact be informed, know your risk during, these are various activities, and it makes sense to me because you're not 100% safe doing anything. But the
opening the mail is one.
Yeah,
That's the least amount of risk. Of course, you can always spray it with Lysol. I've done that before.
Yeah, if you really want to,
Or you can put it out or you can leave it there. You can get your gloves and put it in a special place and leave it there for over 16 hours. So the next day you should be able to go there and read your
bombard it with gamma radiation, maybe.
You could put it out on the porch.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But these things, you look at the really high-risk activities.
Going to big religious ceremonies.
Right.
Hanging out at the bar, getting drunk, and, deciding you're going to slobber all over everybody.
Yeah.
Sports stadiums, movie theater, amusement park. Yeah, just think about all the everything's being touched. Buffet. You know what? I have left, they got Subway. Some Subways, they have people that wear a mask.
I've heard of Subways before.
Some people wear a mask, and that's good. But this one lady, she was wearing her mask under her nose, and I was looking at what I wanted to eat, and I looked at her. I said, wearing your mask like that is just like putting your underwear on wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm not going to eat here. I'm going to go to some other Subway because you don't have a mask on the way you're supposed to. I just can't do this. And I did, and it's up to people to say things. I've just gotten to be where, I go in the post office and these people, who look like they should have a brain, don't,
Well, the mask, at least what I've, learned, as far as the best I can tell, it protects people from me. If I happen to be contagious and I don't know it, it's going to stop a lot of the...
It's going to stop you from slobbering on people.
Well, that and,
But let me throw something else into this mix. On a cold day where it's really cold, it's freezing.
Yeah.
All right. And you go outside and you're breathing and you see this mist, this fog coming out of your mouth.
Right.
Well, that doesn't only happen when what's coming out of your mouth doesn't only happen like that when it's cold. That's coming out anyway. You just don't see it. So think about that. Serious.
Yeah, it's.
It comes out of your nose.
I agree with you.
And it comes out of your mouth. What we're seeing in the cold weather is like steam.
Condensation.
And that's happening whenever we talk. If it was freezing in here and I was talking to you, the screen would get all wet.
Yeah, I probably would. They kind of when you're exhaling and it's at 98, 99 degrees, something like that, and then it hits air that's, cool, say 30 degrees, whatever, then the moisture in your exhalation is going to condense.
Turn to gas.
Right. Well, turn to...
But it's really there anyway.
Liquid. Yeah, right, exactly.
So just think of that, I've never tried to sneeze when it's really cold. That would be interesting to see.
Well, that's... And the people say, well, the mask only protects down to 0.3 micron, Well, but in a high percentage of at least my understanding, the virions or virions, depending on how you want it, the individual virus particles are surrounded by a moisture, a droplet. And so the mask will catch that, not to mention the electrostatic effects of the way the mask is constructed, and it's not like it's a straight shot through the mask, and they are
always
tested.
fill it with an ace bandage,
They do. I think they help, and I've had, too many people, in spite of the people that don't want to wear masks because it's infringing on their liberty and their freedom.
God.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking.
Infringing on somebody else's liberty too.
How about the community?
Exactly.
It's you think. I don't know. It's just hard for me to figure somebody's thinking.
There was a lady that was talking about that she went to Massachusetts and she forgot to put her mask on, and she was reminded really fast, not by anybody saying anything, but by the reaction of people. When they see her, she said their eyes got wide and they gave her a really big berth and stuff. She said, "Oh man, I better go put my mask on because people are like."
Yeah, well, sometimes I forget mine in my car and I have to go back and get it. But
yeah, I've forgotten it at home and then turned around and gone back and got and retrieved it from inside. But one time I was so far away, but I found I had a towel in the car, so I took the towel with me and walked like that.
Yeah, I was probably, maybe better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, it was like, and then where I got to where I was, they could see I was really concerned about it, so they gave me a mask, one of those.
Well, they had. This has been, I don't know, maybe a month ago or something like that. I guess whenever they kind of started opening things back up again, and they were actually providing people with masks as far as the ones going into Whole Foods.
Oh, that's good.
They had a bunch of masks outside. Now, they didn't make it mandatory that you have a mask to go in.
But they made it very easy to do it.
Right.
That's
and,
good.
if it's the thing is, if we're going to reduce the transmission and flatten the curve, as they say, we need to
Well, we should have kept on doing it when we were so close, and then it's like, oh God, we gotta open up the economy. Everybody's gonna go starving or whatever, They should have waited. That's what the countries that are, having the least amount of problems, are the ones who actually followed through until the curve was flattened the amount of time suggested by the experts on what it needed to be. And all this time, when they're talking about opening up, we're getting all these warnings from people who know what they're talking about. But oh no, we can't pay attention to them. We have to go and, be independent, rugged Americans and show this virus that we are, we don't have to follow any of the scientific rules.
Yeah, that's
sorry. Just, hello. They're saying like we'll have so many. I mean, the expectation now, as far as how many cases a day and deaths, is just so out of reach. I mean, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, and I don't think we're trying to scare anybody. You and I on this little program, but there has been so much media. They are. A lot of the places are trying to scare people, and I think people need to have a little bit of common sense with this.
Absolutely.
It may not be.
Not only common sense, Al, they need to have a little bit of respect and compassion for other people too. They can have common sense and do all the calculations you can imagine, but if they don't care enough to look beyond the end of their nose, then they're part of the problem.
Yeah.
They're a big part of the problem.
Well, I guess, it's, I could go into all kinds of stuff on this, but it's like the community. And then you have people that say, "Oh, well, this mask doesn't help," and I think it does. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
And I like to get a little sarcastic and say that's what I always tell doctors if I'm going to have an operation. Make sure you don't wear a mask.
One of these.
Yeah, well, I mean that's going to accomplish a similar thing. It's going to deflect your exhalation to where it's not going to propagate so much. And
right.
Which is, and I think they're saying it depends on the source, but they're talking about that they're thinking this virus is actually becoming, or actually they're realizing that it is an airborne virus.
Mm-hmm.
And that still gets back to how many people can you put in. It's a concentration thing. How many people can you put in this 10 by 10 room with, the likelihoods of, a certain percentage of people being contagious and how much that's going to spread throughout the room and what kind of concentration somebody's going to inhale. I mean, it's like, it's basically a lot of mathematics involved.
Yeah, I was just thinking, sounds like math.
Yeah, well, it is. But I mean, it's there's a lot of things that they don't know. They don't have a precise, a precise value for the variable.
Right. Well, they've done some experiments. They've done some experiments with the different types of masks and, how you wear them and everything, and how much protection or of a barrier that it produces. And I think that we've got like a good sampling of some of that we'll be looking at in a little bit of time.
Well, I was looking at, and this is an interesting, I found it kind of interesting. It's kind of not what I would have expected, except that they wouldn't have said it, they wouldn't have mentioned it if it was going to be, what everybody expected. But, you have a surgical mask, typically you'll see the people wearing the little blue mask with the, like you see on a surgeon or something like that.
Right.
Which is not, it's more porous than an N95 mask.
Right.
But it still filters, reasonably well. But they did a study, I mean, it's been a few years back, I think, at some hospital, and they did a study with the N95 versus the surgical mask, and actually to see how many people caught the flu during flu season, what percent everybody was wearing a mask. And actually, the surgical mask did about 1% better than the N95 mask. Which is well, I mean, it's hard to say if it's because
maybe they were wearing it correctly.
Well, maybe they were wearing it better, maybe they were it more consistently, or
maybe they were more healthy.
Well, there's also that variable too. That you can't.
Maybe they had their flu shot already.
Well, I don't think there was any. I don't think there were. I'm sure that would be an automatic disqualification.
Yeah, there we go.
But but it was interesting. I mean, it was like, I think 7% and a little bit of change with the N95 mask ended up getting the flu, and 8% of the the other way, 7 and some change of the surgical mask. 7, and some change percent of the people that wore surgical masks got the flu, and about 8% and some change of the people that wore the N95 got the flu. So, there was about 1% difference in statistically, the surgical mask actually came out better, which is kind of surprising to me. But, there's other factors that,
Let's look at some masks.
Some masks?
Yeah.
You want to look at some?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have mine.
Well, let's see what other people have. Let's go to India.
mask in India.
They got a lot of masks there. And we're going to switch gears. Let's see a little bit about something else that's important right now. We got our election. Let's look at the census. It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
What is the 2020 census? Every 10 years, the census records everyone living in this country. It's written in the Constitution and comes in a questionnaire that counts everyone who lives at your address on April 1st. The data can be used to inform funding for services like fire stations, schools, clinics, and representation that affect your community.
How will 2020 census data be used? Where there are more people, there are more needs for public services. That's why the census is used by the government to inform funding decisions each year. But that's not all. It's also used by nonprofits to inform services, by businesses to create jobs, and even by students for school projects. Understanding how the population changes helps us shape communities across the country for the better.
How does the 2020 census affect representation? There are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. These get distributed to the 50 states by population, and an accurate census response helps your state get the right amount of seats. States with smaller populations get at least one, while states with larger populations might get more.
How do I take the 2020 census? In March 2020, every address in the country will receive an invitation to complete a simple questionnaire, and there are 3 ways to respond. Number 1, do it online. Number 2, call by phone. Number 3, send it by mail. For those who don't respond, a census taker from your community will follow up and assist you.
Is my 2020 census data safe? After sending your census response, your personal information is kept safe. By law, it can't be shared with any other government agency, law enforcement, or landlord. No one. So take your 2020 census with peace of mind. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
Well, that was kind of cute.
Well, and now we're going to have a little quiz for everybody to share with your family and your kids.
Hey, it's Kelvin, and I'm here today to test your knowledge of my favorite thing, the 2020 census. Now, what's the 2020 census? Well, it's when the U.S. Census Bureau counts everyone who lives in the U.S. and its territories. First question. In what year was the first U.S. Census conducted? Was it 1720, 1850, or 1790? If you said 1790, then by George, I think you got it. And by George, I mean George Washington, who was president during the first census. Yeah, my jokes will get better. Maybe. The 2020 census begins in the spring of 2020. So, here's your next question. How often does the U.S. Census Bureau count the entire population of the country? Every year, every 5 years, or every 10 years? Here's a hint. I was still in diapers during the last count. No, not 5 years. You think I was in diapers at age 7? Very funny. The answer is every 10 years. By the way, that's why they call it the decennial census. Because you know, decennial literally means something that happens every 10 years. Okay, moving on. About how many people did the U.S. Census Bureau count in the U.S. in 2010? Was it about 209 million, 309 million, or 509 million? The answer is about 309 million. And, fun fact, of that number, 100 million lived in just 4 states: California, Florida, New York, and Texas. That's a lot of people. Okay, now listen carefully to this one. According to the U.S. Census Bureau information, what percentage of households in the U.S. had a computer at home in 2017? keep in mind that smartphones count as computers. Was it about 50%, 70%, or 90%? And the Census Bureau's American Community Survey says about 90%. True or false? Census responses help inform how more than $675 billion in federal funds are spent in states and communities every year. Really? You think it's that much money every year? Well, yes it is! Ding, ding, ding! This money is used to help make schools, fire departments, and hospitals in your community. It helps build roads, it helps with housing, well, the point is, it does a lot of stuff. Oh, that sound means our time is up. Congratulations, you won an amazing prize. You've won the chance to be counted in the upcoming census. What did you expect? A week off from school? You know what that's called. Spring break. Well, that's it for today. I've got to go. I'm late for gym class. Also, go home today and circle April 1st, 2020 on your calendar. April 1st, 2020 is also Census Day. It's a day to remind the grown-ups you live with to respond to the 2020 census. They can respond online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy. So when I ask if someone in your household completed the 2020 census, your answer should be yes.
All right. I think we're all smarter now. Do you ever use the word decennial? Decennial?
Not real often, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, me neither. It's expand your vocabulary, and you can tell that this was actually recorded before the coronavirus kicked in.
Yeah, I would say so.
And so the kids that are watching it now, mark your calendars for 2030, because that's when the next census will take place if we remain a democracy under our Constitution, which I hope we do.
What
April
is
1st was...
Well, I mean, that was one day, but I mean, is there a cutoff date? I wonder what the cutoff date is.
I know that it's going on through the fall. Going on through the fall, and it may be extended longer than usual because of the circumstances that we've been facing. But the deal is that really, in light of what is happening, the census field workers are going to be following whatever the criteria are for your particular state. And if your state does not have a mandatory mask option, it'll be up to them. They may go to your house without a mask. Frankly, it's in your best interest to go ahead and call in you've already got the paperwork. If you've lost it, you can call, or you can go to My 2020 Census. And but the thing is, there's a phone number you can look at too. And that phone number is 844-303-2020. 844-303-2020. There's a lot of talk about that 90% deal, that many people use their cell phones now as computers, so they can actually put in the census URL and do it on their cell phone that way, like they were on a computer.
Yeah, I think I did mine on my laptop.
Yeah. But supposedly all offices will conclude their work no later than October the 31st, which is Halloween.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the last line of census takers will be coming around dressed up in
as coronavirus.
They'll be trick or treating or taking the census.
Yeah. You pick. It's real interesting too, because the census questions I want to share online, and we think we've been over this before, that April 1st date, you don't have to go back and look specifically at that. Like if you moved to America on April the 2nd or 3rd, or even May, and you're spending the rest of your year and the rest of your life in a certain place, you should go ahead and take the census and just assume that you can put April 1st as your date. Hey, wake up.
Yeah.
So go ahead and take it. Don't think that because you were, in quarantine or something on April the 1st and not where your regular home is, that, that's what you got to do now. I think the main thing for that April 1st date is to help parents who, share their kids and they're in one place one day of the week and someplace else another day, to help them pick out who gets to say the kids were with them. That's what that's all about.
It wasn't April. It didn't have anything to do with April Fool's Day.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah.
But that's Census Day. It's not only April Fool's Day, it's Census Day.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
At least every decennial.
Yes. Yes. And the fact is that it's so important. Let me see. It's so important. Oh, we've got one more thing to share.
Okay.
Because we've got the absentee voting coming up for, even though the primary is on July the 11th, we also have voting by absentee ballot available for the upcoming election on November the 3rd, which is the real honest to goodness general election for the President of the United States. That's pretty important.
Yes.
If you are like a military person, you have family that's in the military or somebody who's overseas, be sure to tell them to call their registrar and apply online. Apply online at the Secretary of State, whatever state they're in, because, people can listen to us all over the world. To go ahead and say, hey, I'm applying for an overseas ballot. And it's difficult sometimes being overseas, because if you don't have a fax machine, they're not going to take it by computer. You either have to mail it in or send it by fax. And if you don't have a post office and you don't have a fax machine, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Find your post office. Know your surroundings, because it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I know there's been some resistance to the mail-in ballots. And even though the military's been doing that for who knows how long,
Right. Okay. Well, let's look and see what the Secretary of State's instructions are for the mail-in ballot, so we'll all know what to do.
Okay.
This video will demonstrate how to properly fill out an absentee ballot in Louisiana. This is how your ballot will arrive. It will say Official Election Mail at the top and will be from your parish registrar of voters. Inside, you will find your return envelope, your ballot affidavit envelope, instructions on how to vote absentee by mail, and your official absentee ballot. The instructions for absentee voting by mail provide step-by-step instructions for how to cast your vote. Please read over the instructions before you mark your ballot and before you fill out the affidavit flap. When marking your ballot, make sure to use a blue or black ballpoint pen or a lead pencil. Make sure that the bubble is filled in completely. Do not use check marks or X's. The number of choices you're allowed to vote for each office is listed directly under the office title. For example, vote for 1. For some offices, multiple candidates may be selected. You do not have to vote for the maximum number of candidates for your vote to count. For example, if the race for alderman is a vote for 3, you can vote for 1, 2, or 3 candidates. Some ballots may have races on the backside of the page, and some ballots will be on 2 or 3 pages. After you fill out your ballot, place it in the ballot affidavit envelope and seal it. Next, you must completely fill out the affidavit flap. In Section 1, you must write in the date of election. Next, provide your full name, parish, residential address, and ward and precinct. You can find your ward and precinct information on both the envelope you received your ballot in as well as on the return envelope. Your parish registrar of voters may have placed a label on the affidavit flap with your name and address already provided. In that case, you will not need to print your name, address, or ward and precinct, but you will need to complete the rest of the affidavit flap. Don't forget to provide your mother's maiden name.
In Section 2, you will need to sign your affidavit flap in the presence of a witness. Anyone can serve as your witness.
Sign the affidavit flap in the box labeled Voter's Signature or Mark and print your name below your signature. Finally, your witness must also sign the affidavit flap in the box labeled Witness's Signature, and they must print their name below their signature. Section 3 is completed only if you are entitled to and received assistance in voting your absentee ballot. If you received assistance, the person who assisted you must sign, print their name, and describe their relationship to you. If you did not receive assistance, leave Section 3 blank. Do not tear off the affidavit flap. It must be attached to the ballot envelope when it is returned to your parish registrar of voters. Place your ballot affidavit envelope into the return envelope. The return envelope will have a pre-printed label with your name, address, ward and precinct number, and voter registration number on it. Make sure you seal the return envelope.
You can return your ballot by mail, but don't forget to put postage on the return envelope before you place it in the mail. You can also return your ballot in person by hand delivering the envelope to your parish registrar of voters. If you have questions, please refer to the instructions included in your ballot. Call 1-800-883-2805 or contact your parish registrar of voters. If you provide false information on your affidavit flap, you may be subject to a fine of not more than $2,000 or imprisonment for not more than 2 years, or both, for knowingly making false statements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know how to do it. You know, there was a real problem, not this last election, but the one before it, where people just were not doing the ballots correctly, and they had to throw away a lot of ballots because they couldn't even open them if they weren't done correctly on the flap. Like if they didn't have that piece of paper on the outside, they had to throw them away. And if they had the paper on the outside but it wasn't witnessed, they had to throw it away.
Yeah, that was the big thing. I mean, I think getting the witness signature was
critical.
Yeah, right.
And now they worked extra hard in Lafayette Parish to try and find the maiden names if they could, you know. But anyway, it's interesting too, because with the consolidation change where we have 5 districts instead of 14 or 12 or whatever, we have different, some areas have different precinct numbers than they had like 5 years ago.
I just look at my handy little app called Go Vote on my phone, and it tells me all that stuff. Which people, you know, I don't know what, I mean, if you got a phone, like what do they say, 90% of the people have a computer, and let's see, and you know, you got a computer, you probably have a phone too.
Right, right.
And even if you don't have a computer, you probably have a phone.
Yeah.
At least, you know, at least they said, what, 90%?
90%.
And that was in 2017, I think. So, But the Go Vote app, that's a neat little app. And
Right. That's GEAUX vote. So
Yeah.
we're gonna like wrap things up with encouragement to pay attention to all three things that we've sort of focused on our show today, which are being conscientious of your neighbors and friends and society in general, and wear your mask.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, please wear your mask. To take advantage of the census and to be aware of how to do vote by mail, because that's something that you may want to think about also.
And just vote. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
One way or another. I mean, either by mail or, early voting, which I did, or, and you said today.
The 11th of July is the primary, and it stays open if you're in line when it closes. When it's time to close, if you're in line, you get to vote.
Yes.
We're going to put the times on there. I think that it's like, I don't know, maybe longer than it was for early voting. Early voting stopped at 6:30, but I think it's later in the day for the day of voting.
Yeah, I think at least 7.
At least 7, maybe 8.
Yeah, well, I bet I can look on my handy dandy app and find out.
Do it really fast.
Let's see here.
Let me show you how good Go Vote is.
Polling location, election day voting. Okay. 8 p.m.
8 p.m. So you have till 8 p.m. to get in line.
Yeah, and if I were going to vote, if I hadn't already voted, I would go to Como High School. It tells me the address and everything. Of course, I already knew that, but I would be able to vote till 8 p.m.
Yes. All right. And everybody, that should be the case in all the state of Louisiana. So everybody, we wish you a healthy week, 2 weeks, however long it takes for us to get back to you. We never know.
Yeah.